The Gilgo Beach murders remained one of America's most haunting unsolved serial killer cases for more than a decade. Between 1993 and 2010, multiple women disappeared across Long Island, New York. Many of their remains were later discovered along the remote stretch of Ocean Parkway near Gilgo Beach, shocking the nation and sparking one of the largest homicide investigations in New York history. For years, investigators struggled to identify the killer. The breakthrough finally came in 2023 when DNA evidence, cell phone records, internet searches, and evidence linked to a distinctive vehicle led authorities to Long Island architect Rex Heuermann. Prosecutors alleged that Heuermann targeted vulnerable women, many of them sex workers, luring them with promises of money before murdering them and disposing of their bodies in secluded locations. In April 2026, Heuermann pleaded guilty to 7 murders and admitted to an 8th killing, bringing a dramatic end to years of speculation, investigation, and courtroom battles. Today, the victims' families finally have an opportunity to confront the man responsible as the court prepares to determine his sentence in one of the most notorious serial murder cases in modern American history.
All rise, hear ye, all persons having business in trial term part 7 of the Supreme Court of the State of New York, held in and for the County of Suffolk, will draw near, give your attendance, and ye shall be heard. The Honorable Timothy Mazzei presiding. Be seated and come to order.
Good morning.
Number 3 on for sentencing, Rex A. Heuermann.
Let's get him out.
Coming out.
Yes, Judge, it is.
Council's going to have your appearances, please.
For the defendant, Michael Brown, 320 Carlton Avenue, Central Islip, New York. Good morning, Judge.
Good morning.
For the defendant, Daniel Boyce, 320 Carlton Avenue, Suite 2000 in Central Islip. Good morning.
For the people, Nicholas J. Santamartino. Good morning.
For the people, Assistant District Attorney Andrew Lee. For the people, Lawrence.
Good morning. Mr. Brown, is your client ready for sentencing?
We are, Your Honor. Thank you.
People wish to be heard?
Yes, please. Your Honor, prior to the people making its recommendation as to sentencing, people wish for several victim impact statements to be delivered. Some of these victim impact statements will be delivered live here in the courtroom, and others will be read on behalf of members of the victims' families who could not be here or wished for us to read the statements on their behalf. These statements will provide to the court an opportunity to experience the tragedy, the consequences, and the personal impact experienced by these families based on the defendant's actions. The first presenter or speaker, Your Honor, would be Mr. and Mrs. Ed and Joanne Mack.
You may proceed.
Mr. and Mrs. Mack.
You may proceed, sir.
Mr. Heuermann, you have done horrendous things to Valerie's earthly body, but you have not touched the real Valerie. You paraphrase C.S. Lewis, there are no ordinary people. You have never talked to a mere mortal. Everyone you've joked with, worked with, married, snuffed, or even killed is born an immortal creature. Each will live forever, either in majestic glory or imaginable horror. I can only imagine when my day comes and I find myself standing before Jesus, Valerie will be at his side.
Your Honor, I would like to say to Mr. Heuermann, what you have done to our family is beyond what words can express. Even though justice is done, it cannot replace what you have taken from us. Or can it give our beloved Valerie back her life here on earth? I do, however, want you to understand that even though you were able to commit these horrendous atrocities against our daughter, and no matter what sense of power or control you felt over Valerie's body, you were never able to touch her soul. Telling you, unless you get yourself right before God, Valerie is the one who is free today, and you are not. She is living her life with her Savior, Jesus Christ, and what you have done has gained you nothing. I'd like you to understand the thing that is the saddest to bear is that you took away every chance that she ever had these past 26 years since you took her life to attain any of the goals that she had set for herself, and she did. She had hopes and she had dreams, and you took it all away. And you can never give it back, no matter how much remorse or regret, or if you're sorry, I'll never know. But you cannot give her back what you took from her and her son. You took away a lifetime for him of his mother's love.
Thank you, ma'am.
Next, Your Honor, Ms. Danielle Mack, adopted sister of Valerie Mack, wishes to address the court.
Very well.
Hello. Today, I'm here to talk about the impact of Mr. Heuermann's crimes. I don't come to address him because I don't believe he is worth addressing. He doesn't have the humanity to feel remorse. He is a selfish, entitled man who felt like my sister and the other victims' lives were his to destroy. My sister was not in a good place when she met Mr. Heuermann, and he took advantage of that. She'd never have looked twice at him if she hadn't been struggling. Despite her struggles, despite the mugshot that the media has spread of her, Valerie Mack had a fire inside of her that lit up the world around her. She was strong, protective, sharp, funny, and beautiful inside and out. From what I have heard of Jessica, Maureen, Melissa, Megan, Amber, Sandra, and Karen, this is something all these girls shared in common. Mr. Heuermann may have snuffed out their lives and took them away from us, but the fires they lit roar inside each and every one of us, and that is something he can never rob us of.
Next, Your Honor, Valerie Mack's son, Benjamin Aaron Torres, asks that the following statement be read on his behalf. For the record, he is here and in support of the sentencing today. I am the son of Valerie Mack. The amount of pain and loss you have caused my life is insurmountable. The web of destruction you inflicted spans well beyond me and my wounds. So much so, words fail to convey it properly. Such a degree of evil and selfishness you have acted out warrants no possible excuse. I will leave you with this. You will reap what you have sown. No one is exempt from that universal truth. Your Honor, next, Ms. Jasmine Robinson and Violet Swagger, cousins of Jessica Taylor, wish to address the court.
I'll never forget how I felt when I got that call. I couldn't wrap my mind around the word torso. No way could someone do that to someone I love. Torso, headless and handless. These words haunt me. Our prefrontal cortex had barely finished form. Torso? I thought that was a midriff. It's a chopped up body. No way. Disgusting, awful, terrifying, monstrous, brutal. What? Parts of her are all over the place missing? They didn't find all of her? All of her. Headless and handless. I still don't understand. That weekend, she was supposed to come home. That weekend, family and friends were looking for her. Loved ones were calling her. She wasn't gonna miss that weekend. She never picked up the phone. She didn't call anyone back because of you. I will hate Khalil forever, and I can't even put into words the viscerating loathing I have for you. My heart broke even more that there were more victims. Sick, twisted, heartless. There aren't enough words for these murders. My heart sinks even lower for the victims that have not been named or found. May they too get justice. 23 years. 23 years we've waited. For a while it felt like this day would never come. The pain and devastation your murders have caused is immeasurable. Sometimes it doesn't feel real. Decades later, her presence is missed. Always. Decades we have wondered who could have done that. And then the call. They found her skull. My cousin's skull was found years later, miles away. We had a memorial to celebrate her. I daydream of the woman she'd be today, and I smile with pride. Today she turns our age. Her half-birthday was my birthday, and my half-birthday was her birthday. And we would laugh, because the calendar math is wrong. I miss her. I know she'd be just as obsessed with my nephew as I am. My sister and I are super close. And we were young. The three of us girls were weekend warriors. It was like Jazzy got a big sister cousin and I got a twin cousin. We were amazing together, always coming up with stuff, always creating, exploring. We knew how to be free when we were together. Weekend warriors, 80s and 90s kids playing double dutch, and that old memory game Husker Du, hand clap games, and Nintendo when we could get a turn. Learning the Tootsie Roll at a dance party in a church basement, being at Aunt Beth's house, having dance parties and movie family nights, staying up late, soda milk. Some people call it dirty soda, but it's soda milk. Sneaking watching Tales from the Crypt with my sister when maybe she was too young, using whatever you can to lay your edges. She was always fly. Some weekends we were country mice, some weekends we were city mice. Slick and sly in any environment, adaptable. We'd explore and we'd strive for more, forever curious and longing to experience more, longing to live full lives. We shared everything. Family secrets that will never be yours to know. We shared the good and the bad. We loved each other and knew we always had each other's backs, even when time and distance kept us apart. And then we almost grew up. I was working and noticed my cousin's face on TV. It was her awful mugshot and that terrible photo of her scratched up tattoo. Terrible. And the way they were describing her. She had no one, estranged, a nobody. My bestie called me immediately and told me my cousin was on the TV and I'm not going to like how they portray her. She was right. And I had already seen it. And was more than angry. Just because someone's family doesn't want to talk to the press does not mean they aren't suffering extreme loss and pain. Pain and grief are different for all of us. The narrative and language regarding Jess and the other victims is finally starting to take a turn, but we can't unhear and unfeel the past. Until you came around, nobody ever questioned who is or isn't my family. The way the press has treated the victims and their families over the years is painful, bringing out the worst of the worst. This will never be over. Maybe now strangers will stop trying to figure out our family. You won't get it, and quite frankly, I don't give a damn. Heuermann, you fill me with so much repugnance, it's suffocating. But I can't let you overtake me, and I will stand strong for my cousin and the many other victims, including the ones you're holding on to, like a carrot over the FBI because of this behavioral health study. You went from freak to clown, better work, creep. I hope you and I believe that science and detectives will beat you to the punch. Remember when they surrounded you out of nowhere to arrest you? I love that footage. I could watch it over and over. I almost feel sorry for not publicly speaking before this, and the voices that still can't. But if ever there was a time for me to talk about Jessica Taylor, my cousin, my brave, fun, hilarious, spunky, smart, beautiful friend, there are songs that I listen to and I can still hear. He did not just say shave your face with some mace. And laugh. And the 80s and 90s would not have been the same without each other. And the future won't be the same without her. 1,000,000 years isn't enough because you won't suffer for that long. You will spend the rest of your forever in prison, and it doesn't feel satisfying. Nothing will ever make this right. This kind of grief stays. Knowing you can never do it again does give me some comfort. Jess is always with us.
Do you want to end up like Jessica? That is a question I heard many times as a teenager. Something spoken out of the fear of knowing what a monster is truly capable of. The answer was yes. I did want to end up like Jess. She was fierce, kind, compassionate, beautiful, and intelligent. She loved every person she met better than she found them, even if they only met for a moment. She never met a stranger. She was pure sunshine. That I could see the woman she would have become. I would have hugged her tighter the last time that I saw her. That she could know my son. The trips us and my sister could have had. The memories we could have continued to make. Instead, I try to remember her through the memories that I'm lucky to hold on to. I pray to her and I leave flowers in memory of her in the places that she was left behind. I fought for her when she couldn't fight. I promised her until the wheels fell off, and I never gave up, even when it felt like I was screaming underwater. If I could say something to her murderer, I would say this. You thought you took her voice, but you didn't know that she had people who loved her. You hunted her, and I hunted you. I would say to her murderer, for someone who spent so much time perfecting his skill, you certainly were sloppy. You made a whole planning document to kill my cousin, and you couldn't even do that right. Let's go through your lists. Problems, DNA, left it. Messed up there, huh? Supplies, hairnet, well, so much for that. Body prep, removed DNA. Once again, you wrote it down twice, and you still couldn't get it. And remove ID marks. Well, we know you couldn't do that because she was identified by the tattoo that you couldn't cut out properly. I can wrap around my head around why you would kill, because who would want to be around you? What I can't wrap my head around is why would the FBI even want to waste their time with you? You're boring, you're not prolific, you couldn't even be top 5, you're a nobody, you didn't evade the police, just wasn't worked properly. If the police work and the technology was the same as 2023, you would have been locked up then. You were right there the whole time, losing control while the clock ticked. I know why you did what you did to my cousin after you killed her. It's because she saw you as the huge freak that you are. I know she let you know up until the end. I know she did not go out without a fight. You chose small women because you were nothing more than a weak, disgusting coward. It makes sense how you didn't see them as human. It's kind of the same way nobody saw you as a human in high school. You tried to fit in your whole life, and you never could. Your whole life was fake. All for you to perfect a craft that you couldn't perfect. You could never get it right. You could never have full control. You want to know what it is to play God? Well, you will have to face him. Today is Jessica's birthday. She'd be turning 43 today, and I would be able to make fun of her for being an old lady with my sister. When I started my fight for her, there was a piece of me who thought I could bring her back if I got answers. Well, unfortunately, that will never be true. I know one day I will get to hug her in heaven. I'm so grateful for this day of justice, and I know she is too. I hope she's singing with the angels today, and we will forever celebrate her and all of the victims with love. Happy birthday, Jess.
Next, Your Honor, Melissa Missy Ken, sister of Maureen Brainard-Barnes, wishes to address the court. She will be accompanied by her husband, Christian.
Your Honor, in this court, nothing could have prepared me for the day that Maureen didn't come home. At first, I kept telling myself that she would call at any moment, that everything would somehow be okay. But as days turned into years, that hope slowly faded into a devastating reality. After years of searching for Maureen, my world shattered. The day my sister was found in the brambles on the side of a dark, lonely highway. She was not just murdered, she was a victim of a predator, a serial killer. This was not just a murder, this was a calculated, unimaginable evil. It was a shock so profound that my mind and body could not process it. Because when Maureen was identified, it meant facing the truth that she was gone forever. And that pain is unbearable. I lived with survivor's guilt for over a decade. I replayed every moment over and over again in my mind, asking myself, what if? What if I'd done something differently? Would Maureen still be here today? That question became a weight I carried everywhere. It was constant, heavy, and painfully real. That guilt changed me. I held on to it because I believed I had to. I told myself that if I let go, then what kind of sister would I be? I didn't allow myself to feel happiness or peace for long because Maureen never got that chance. Deep down, I convinced myself that somehow this was all my fault. It has taken me years to know the truth. My actions did not cause my sister's death. The guilt is not mine to carry and never was. This burden belongs to Rex. And Rex alone. I hope he's forced to sit with the reality to feel even a fraction of the weight, the trauma and the pain I've carried for so long. Your Honor, I would like to tell you about my sister Maureen. Maureen was a rare soul, someone you didn't come across often. She was intelligent in a way that went beyond books. She was deeply insightful and the kind of person who would understand you with just a few minutes of conversation. Anyone who sat with her, even for 5 minutes, will walk away knowing how extraordinary she truly was. Maureen was there for me through every chapter of her life that she was alive to witness it. She comforted me when I was a scared child and thunder shook the house. She was the first person I saw when I woke up. from a medically induced coma on life support after a serious car crash. Standing beside me, picking glass and dirt out of my hair, in my most vulnerable moments, she advocated for me and made sure I was cared for. She was there on her own birthday while I was being induced into labor and my daughter was born the very next day. When I look back on my life with Maureen, I remember her as my protector, someone who loved me unconditionally. She never judged me or tried to change me. She loved me exactly as I was. If Maureen's life had not been taken, I believe she would have gone on to touch countless of lives in a deeply positive way. That's the kind of person she was. She was loving, selfless, and unforgettable. She had a nurturing spirit, always putting others before herself. Her kindness, her warmth, and selflessness, it left a lasting mark on everyone who knew her. She was vibrant, and she is my sister. The last words she said to me were, "I love you, I'll see you tomorrow," because she was supposed to come home from New York City. Her words never left me. They still echo in my mind. Maureen, my brother Will, and I were inseparable. But Will isn't here today. He died a year before Maureen was found. I will be his voice today. He lived and died not knowing what happened to her. He never stopped searching. He went to New York over and over, handing out her pictures, knocking on doors, chasing any lead he could find. He wrote on her MySpace, hoping she would somehow see it and come home. He wrote, "I love you, Maureen. I'll never forget you. And if you could see this, please contact me. You know, no matter what's going on, I'm here for you. I love you, Maureen." That loss never left him, but it changed him. He carried the weight of her disappearance every day, the guilt of feeling like he couldn't protect her, like he should have done more. And he carried that pain with him until the day he died. Your Honor, you see, this was not only a destruction of life, this has became a lifelong devastation of a family who's loved her. The trauma he created didn't end with me, it has affected my children. It's something that then passed down to children, mother to child and beyond. That is the lasting actions, damage his actions. Rex didn't just take my sister, he ripped her out of my life and shattered everything I thought I knew about safety, trust in the world around me. When he took her life, he destroyed mine as I knew it. There is a permanent emptiness, a wound that will never heal. I am not who I was before because of him, and I never will be again. Since Maureen's murder, this case has changed the way I see the world. What once felt normal now feels unpredictable and unsafe. My mind doesn't go to what's likely, it goes straight to the most unthinkable outcome. Every situation could spiral into fear. I overthink, I panic, and the danger I imagine feels real, like it's already happening. I've spent years trying to heal. I've gone to EMDR therapy, PSD treatment, and counseling, but no matter how much work I've done, there's a wall I can't seem to break because I struggle trusting people with my story. And without trust, it feels impossible to fully heal. When Rex chose to take Maureen's life, he didn't just take her from us, he took my sense of safety, he took my peace of mind, he took the way I used to move through the world without fear. In many ways, I became one of his victims too. I live with this every day. It's like being trapped, shackled in your own mind, imprisoned by fear and constant terror I can't escape. But I'm here today to take back my sense of safety that was taken from me and confront my deepest fear. Rex, while you thought you gotten away with what you done, I made it my life mission to see you found and brought to justice. Without you knowing it, I became your worst nightmare. You thought you were hidden, and you thought you were smarter than anybody else, able to live in the shadows without consequence. But you were wrong. The voices of our families grew louder, our grief turned into strength, and the determination of law enforcement and this district attorney's office only intensified until the truth caught up with you. I noticed a slight smile on your face when the judge spoke about cooperating with the FBI behavioral analysis unit. You looked proud, almost honored to be associate something you yourself have studied, read, and studied about. But there's no honor in this. You are not going to be part of something admirable. You are going to be a subject, confined, examined, reduced to a case study. Nothing more than a cage specimen, picked apart so others could understand the depth of your cruelty. Hear this clearly. Your name will never rise above the woman you stole from this world. We will now not allow it. They are the ones who matter, and they are the ones who will be remembered. In the end, they will be remembered for only what you are, small, hollow, and defined entirely by the destruction you caused. I don't know what shaped you or what pain or anger you may have carried, but I know this with certainty. It wasn't Maureen, it wasn't Melissa, Megan, Amber, Jessica, Valerie, Sandra, or Karen. They did not create the darkness inside you. They were innocent and paid the price for something that was never theirs to begin with. You are a coward who preyed on vulnerable, innocent women. You hid behind a mask, presenting yourself as normal, a father, a husband, someone people could trust. But that mask was a lie. Beneath the truth is who you are, a man without empathy, without a soul, someone who hunted, tortured, and murdered women to satisfy the darkness within you. For years, we lived in the shadow of what you did. We the pain, the fear, the unanswered questions, but today that changes. Today you are no longer the one in control of this story. Maureen was not just a victim. She is a daughter, a sister, a mother, a woman who was loved deeply and will never be forgotten. And while you tried to silence her, you failed. You may have taken her presence, but you can never erase her voice and the memories of her. It lives on in every truth spoken, every tear shed, and every act of courage inspired by her memory. I found my strength through her voice. From the pain you caused, I build resilience. From the silence you tried to force, I rose louder to you. This is about more than justice. This is me stepping fully in my light after years of surviving your darkness. It's about reclaiming what you try to break and honoring what you can never destroy. Love.
Next, Your Honor, Miss Nicolette Brainard-Barnes and Dylan Haggett, the son and daughter of Maureen Brainard-Barnes, wish to address the court. They will be accompanied by Marie Ducharme, Maureen Brainard-Barnes' mother.
Your Honor, my name is Nicolette Brainard-Barnes. I am the daughter of Maureen Brainard-Barnes. Before we talk about the case, I'd like to talk about my mom. She was a warm, bubbly, funny, intelligent, and artistic person. Most of all, she had the biggest heart of anyone I've ever known. When she would pass an unhoused person on the street, she would literally give them her last dollar, or at least stop to acknowledge them and see how they were doing if she didn't have any money on her. She was a language arts girly, a poet, an avid reader. She was politically outspoken, and that carried through in her writing. She loved hip-hop and R&B music and would write raps in her poetry notebooks, saying she wanted to be a rapper. She had a strong sense of humor and the most contagious laugh. She was young at heart, but she was also just young. She lived for only another few weeks past her 25th birthday. When I myself turned 25, it wasn't the joyful milestone that most young people enjoy. It was jarring and painful because I knew that it meant I'd now lived longer than my mom did. Today, I'm nearly 2 years older than she will ever be. Rex Heuermann stole decades of life from a woman who should still be here making memories with the people who love her. The loss of my mother and the circumstances surrounding her death have impacted me in many ways. I've had to go to years of therapy and I've tried many different treatments and medications. I've dealt with extreme paranoia and anxiety and experienced severe PTSD. It's affected every aspect of my life. Even now that Heuermann's been caught, I will never be someone who can relax because I had such overwhelming fear at such a formative age. I was only 7 years old when I lost my mother, and for the next 3 years she was missing. I had to wonder what happened to her. The first time I remember experiencing depression in my life was my first Christmas without her. I didn't realize at the time that that's what it was, but I remember just feeling so empty and wondering why I felt so sad when it was Christmas and I had received every present I wanted. But I didn't have my mother. I was a little girl and I needed my mom. And there are moments that have yet to come when I will need her and she will not be there. People tell me how alike we are. Our mannerisms, views on things, interests, hobbies. Those 7 years with her set the blueprint for who I am. My life has been immeasurably altered by the loss of my mother. There is no part of it untouched by her absence. Her death did not create a single moment of grief. It created a lifetime of them. My life is largely defined by the countless ways it could have been different if she were still here. I often think about the person I might have been if I had the chance to grow up with my mother. That question has no answer, and that is part of the injustice that I live with every day. I have been shaped as much by my mother's absence as I would have been by her presence. I want to shift focus for a moment to acknowledge the investigators and members of the task force who took over this case in 2022. Throughout an unimaginably painful process made more painful by the court of public opinion slandering my mother and the other victims, they treated my family and my mother's memory with dignity, compassion, and respect. They never allowed her to become just a file or a headline. They kept the victims and our families at the center of their work. And that has meant more than I can fully express. In a case that often felt defined by stigma, they gave our family moments of humanity. My mother was not a headline, a statistic, or a label. She was not defined by one chapter of her life, and she certainly was not defined by the circumstances of her death. Like every sex worker, my mom was an entire human being. When Rex Heuermann took her from the world, he took someone with hopes and plans for her life. He took a mother, a daughter, an aunt, a friend. He took someone who was deeply loved and can never be replaced. He reduced vibrant women with families, personalities, dreams, humor, and histories into names on a list. But they are all far more complex, compassionate, and interesting people than he will ever be. My mother lived a real, colorful, complicated life. She loved, she struggled, she mattered, and she deserved the chance to keep living. The women he targeted were not disposable. They were deeply loved, and their absence has left permanent wounds in the lives of everyone who knew them. My mother's life had depth, warmth, humor, and meaning. The same is true for the other women whose lives he stole: Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, Amber Costello, Sandra Costilla, Karen Vergata, Valerie Mack, and Jessica Taylor. They will be remembered for who they were and how deeply they were loved. He will be remembered only for destruction. For all the attention this case has brought him, he remains the least interesting person in it. My mother and the other victims lived full, complex lives that mattered infinitely more than the man who cut them short. And to Rex, I know you want the world to think you have the capacity for love and that you love those close to you, but the mask you wear does not fool me. You are a pathetic man who thinks you're better than women. You need to believe that sex workers are subhuman because you're a coward who takes out your own shortcomings on others. I feel bad for you because your capacity for hate means that you can't possibly understand love. The purity of it, the kind of love I had and still have for my mother. Seeing your last court appearance and the way you smirked as you finally confessed to what you did to my mother proves that you need to be locked away for the safety of the community. There are no words extreme enough to communicate the level of depravity within you. You make me sick and I don't forgive you.
My name is Dylan and I am the son of Maureen. When I lost her, I was just 1 year old. My earliest memories are defined by anxiety, fear, and sadness, not knowing where she had went and why I did not have her in my life. I don't remember her voice or her face or the love she gave me as a baby. I never had my mom to see me on my first days of school. I never had her when I graduated. I never had her when I needed her, and I will never have her in the future when I need her. She never got to see who I would become, and she never got to play a role in shaping who I will become. The trauma of losing my mom in such a way, at such a young age, affected every part of my life, and will continue to affect every part of my life. Thank you.
Your Honor, next, Ms. Amanda Funderburg, sister of Melissa Barthelemy, wishes to address the court. She will be accompanied by both her mother and Melissa's mother, Lynn Barthelemy.
My name is Amanda, and I'm the sister of Melissa Barthelemy, or as Rex would have met her under the name Chloe. Melissa Mary Barthelemy, born April 14th, 1985, in Buffalo, New York. Today, if she were here, she'd be 41 years old, but instead she's forever 24. Growing up, my sister was always there for me, whether it be taking care of me when my mom was at work, making me lunch, doing my hair, walking to my aunt's house, playing games, watching TV, or just sitting in silence together. She was 9 years older than me, so naturally I looked up to her. She was my sister, but also like a second mom, my protector, and later would become my best friend. She was thoughtful, and she always checked in. Even when she moved to Texas with her father, she would call and check in with my mom and I. She'd send me letters with pictures she drew, and she even sent me a nightlight she made by hand because she knew I was terrified of the dark, which I still have to this day. I don't use it. She was a fighter for love, for family, and for a better life. She wanted to open her own hair salon one day, which made me and our family her guinea pigs.
She was a high school graduate and even went on to cosmetology school before moving to New York City. Melissa was kind-hearted, give your shirt off her back kind, the kind that would give someone the last of her money or a place to stay if they needed. She told you like it was, even if it was to simply tell you she didn't like you. She was strong-willed, determined, ambitious, and an amazing role model. She loved to cuddle, to laugh. She loved the color baby blue, her beauty rest, and she loved her family, including her cats. She loved music, clothes, sneakers, food, roller coasters, and a good Long Island iced tea. Don't get me wrong, she had her flaws. She was stubborn, she was always right, and she was selective on who she liked. As I got older, if I did something I wasn't supposed to, she'd even tell on me like I did to her when I was a kid. She'd pick on me in the type of I love you way, which I acquired that trait. She was a little conceited, and I would always laugh at her when she was getting ready in the mirror because she would make this face like she was the most beautiful woman in the world, which truly made me admire her confidence, so I guess that's a good thing. After my sister moved to the Bronx, I'd only get to see her once or twice a year. She'd always come home for Christmas and stay until after the New Year. And if I was lucky, I got to stay with her for the summer. I remember the last holiday I spent with Melissa. I didn't hug her goodbye, thinking I'd see her again in a few short months when I went to spend the summer with her. And I remember the last time I spoke with her, she was telling me how I'd get my plane ticket from the kiosk at the airport. Not knowing that trip would never come, that next hug would never come, and that holiday would have been the last time I'd see her. She would go missing in July of 2009, about a week before I was supposed to fly out to her. And I always wonder if it would have happened if I would have been there. Would she still be here? Would she have been spared because you wouldn't have met her? Or because I would have known where she was going? But those questions don't matter because you still took her from me, from all of us. You can look at me while I'm talking. It's been about 17 years since we spoke, don't forget. You tarnished the relationship between my mother and I for a while. She was afraid for me because of you. She was afraid when I left the house that I wouldn't return. It was also hard for her to be there for me the way I needed her to be. When she herself was fighting for my sister's life, for someone to take us seriously, fighting for her own life and for her sanity. Thankfully, we were able to reconcile our relationship, something you'll probably never have with your daughter, and I hope that's something that haunts you for the rest of what I hope is a very short-lived life. I was forced to live with crippling anxiety, depression, PTSD, and a destroyed nervous system. I was filled with rage and sadness every single day. For a while, depression had got the best of me, and so I barely ate, and I cried and slept on repeat. I was afraid of people that looked at me for too long. I was mortified anytime I heard a noise if I was home alone. Checked the back of my car every time I got in. I was weary about meeting new people or being in large crowds. My heart even seemed to beat if I got a call from a blocked number. Constantly staring at my phone waiting for the next call from you. Because of the several times you had called me from my sister's phone, telling me she was a whore, and that you raped her in the ass. And then I should have seen the look on her face when you raped her in the ass. Or how I'd ask you where she was. And you'd tell me that you were letting her body rot and that maybe one day you'd come tell me where she was. I had to repeat all of this to my mother and to countless detectives, constantly playing these words out loud and in my head, and watching my mom grieve her baby girl was one of the most gut-wrenching things I've ever had to experience. I was always focused on the possibility of a next phone call or where my sister was so much that I couldn't even focus on school. I was 15 years old. I know. I was just going into 10th grade, and I never got to finish because even when I was in school, my mind wasn't actually present. I was robbed of my youth, I was robbed of my young adulthood, and I still feel robbed to this day. There were so many years that I didn't want to be on this earth anymore. I would never take my own life, but it got to the point where I didn't care what happened to me. I simply didn't want to be here without her. I didn't feel safe, I didn't feel loved, and I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere because a part of me was missing. I had the guilt that I had hidden her work from everyone because maybe if I had told my mom, just maybe she would have stopped. Melissa would have been angry with me, but that I could have lived with because she'd still be here. I wonder what exactly made you think she was expendable. What made you think she didn't have anyone that loved or cared about her? After all that I endured, I still chose to fight and be resilient. We all did. We did it alone and we did it together. My family and all the other families came together as one, and we fought as one. You might have taken our girls from us, but we gained each other, which clearly worked against you. There was a time I almost felt bad for you, thinking, wow, someone really messed up this guy. Then I reminded myself that we're all animals, we're all being monsters, whether we like to admit it or not. We all have intrusive thoughts. The difference between us and you is we don't act on them. You had a choice and you made the wrong one. You became nothing but a nuisance to society. Don't even bother saying that you're sorry, or you couldn't help yourself because no one believes that even for a moment. It's because of you I never get to see my big sister again. Because of you I've missed out on so many memories made with her, seeing her grow old, watching her interests change. Never getting to see if she'd open a salon, if she'd have a family, if she would have moved back home, or even what her favorite song would be right now. I hope that even the thought of pizza reminds you how bad you messed up, taking away the precious lives of our loved ones and how you've been held accountable for your actions. And although I can't do it myself, I hope you suffer to the fullest extent at the hands of others the way you made our girls suffer. And I hope the word ogre, the media called me an ogre, I hope that sticks with you because that's truly what you are. A large man with unpleasant traits, a violent man, a repulsive monster, a demon, inside and out. Don't get me wrong, I'm overjoyed that you've been taken out of society, so you can't take anyone's loved ones away from them anymore. But in my eyes, justice isn't served. Our girls don't get to come back now. Justice in my eyes is our families inflicting the same pain that you inflicted on our girls, and all the others I believe are still out there. Believe me when I say you're not the only capable person in this room. You murdered my sister, and the things I do to you are far worse than anything you've ever done to anyone, or even thought of. And just because you have a few fans, remember, you are hated by so many. I know everyone spoke on heaven, but do me a favor, save me a spot in hell, because I'll see you there.
One of the final two speakers who will wish to give their statements to the court are Elizabeth Meserve, the aunt of Megan Waterman, and Liliana Waterman, the daughter of Megan Waterman.
Your Honor, as the aunt of Megan Waterman, who was loved dearly for her humor, strength, and devotion to her friends and family, I'm honored to be a voice of Megan Amelia Waterman. Megan was being prostituted by Akeem Cruz, a pimp who disguised himself as her boyfriend. And because of his trafficking of my niece, the prisoner who sits in this courtroom today was able to rob her of her life and rob those who loved her of a future with her. On June 6, 2010, the prisoner not only took all of Megan's hopes and dreams, but he also shattered our family. Megan left the Holiday Inn Express in Hauppauge, New York, to meet the predator who stole her from us. I'm certain my niece fought as hard as she possibly could to come back to her daughter, whom she loved with every fiber of her being. Her loss has caused immeasurable hardship for our family, medically, financially, emotionally, and this will not end when this day ends. My niece Megan was much more than a statistic, a headline, or a number in the horrific crimes committed by this prisoner. Megan was a mother, a daughter, niece, sister, and a vibrant young woman who dreamed of building a wonderful life for herself and her daughter. I have worked since 2010 seeking some form of justice for Megan's death, and today reflects the result of years of pain, perseverance, and hard work by many people. Some days are easier than others for me and my family, but we continue moving forward, hoping for the day when this kind of evil no longer exists in society. It saddens me to think that my parents who raised Megan and my sister who gave her life did not live long enough to witness what is transpiring today. It took 7 agonizing months from the time Megan went missing until she was identified as one of the victims found on the beach. During that time, I spent every day wondering what was happening to her, where she was, and hoping she would come back to us. That was not to be, because the sick individual who sits here in this courtroom had fantasized about ending her life along with the lives of many others. Through the evidence, we have learned that this prisoner did not have a type. He simply wanted to torture and kill. His searching of child pornography, gay pornography, torture pornography, and pornography in general. The prisoner is larger in stature. Some have compared him to an ogre. When you consider the size of this man and the fact that he searched for children and smaller statured victims, it becomes quite clear he was not a fearsome predator, but rather a cowardly opportunist. I was there the day Megan gave birth to her daughter, the same daughter who was left motherless because the prisoner chose to take Megan's life. When Liliana first learned her mother had died, she would walk around telling us that she was 4, she didn't understand what death meant. She would tell us that her mother died of the hunger because she was lost and couldn't find food. And then when they found her, Lily would ask us why the police didn't bring her home because they found her mummy. As one of the people responsible for helping to raise Lily, my heart broke a million times over because her mother was not present for the milestones, such as her first day of school, her high school graduation, her college graduation. One day, my great niece will marry, and she will not have her mother by her side to help her choose her wedding dress. The prisoner stole those moments from my great niece the day he took her mother from us. Forever she will hurt, and forever our family will hurt because of Megan's absence and all the milestones and life events that lie ahead. I cannot find the words to truly express how devastating Megan's loss has been to our family. Prisoners plan to erase Megan, Maureen, Melissa, Amberlynn, Jessica, Valerie, Sandra, and Karen backfired. Because of his vile and cowardly actions, our loved ones will be spoken of for years to come with love and reverence, not only by their families and friends, but by millions of people around the world who now mourn their loss. The families, friends, and supporters of these women demanded justice because their lives had meaning, purpose, and value. The justice system has spoken, and the prisoner will be banished from society for the rest of his life. He will now become the burden on the taxpayers of whichever state prison system houses him until he takes his last breath. And I'm compelled to speak of the devastating re-victimizations and marginalizations that we have endured throughout this process. First, due to the corruption of the former Suffolk County District Attorney, Thomas Spoda, and the former Suffolk County Police Chief, James Burke, the very individuals who were responsible for investigating our loved one's case, key evidence was never even looked at, so that light would not be shown on their corruption. These two vile and corrupt men who took oaths to serve and protect done their jobs, or at least allowed others who were more than willing to investigate do theirs, this case would have been closed years earlier perhaps. Second, the prisoner's ability to divest himself of assets through divorce exposes flaws in the system that deserve careful review and reform. Third, 50 Cent's production company, G-Unit Film and Television Inc., working alongside Peacock streaming services to produce a docuseries that paid millions of dollars to the prisoner's ex-wife, daughter, stepson, and their attorneys is completely disgusting and inexcusable. When I read about this, I was both sickened and shocked and deeply disturbed. It's important to put on record, these individuals profited from the monstrous acts committed against our loved ones by the demon sitting in this courtroom. This is the kind of world we're living in. A demon tortures and kills our loved ones, and his family gets filthy rich off his crimes. New York State, through the authority of this court, has already demonstrated the ability to advance the cause of justice by expanding the DNA threshold through the Friday hearings and decision. A decision that provided renewed hope to victims, families, just as it provided hope to our families while seeking truth and accountability. Now New York has another opportunity to lead. For families like us, the pain of violent crime does not end with the arrest or conviction. We continue to witness individuals, associates, and third parties profit or attempt to profit from the notoriety surrounding these horrific acts through the sale of memorabilia, collectibles, and other items tied to infamous crimes and offenders. Existing Son of Sam protections were created to prevent criminals from benefiting for their crimes, yet loopholes remain that allow notoriety itself to be monetized. I implore members of the legislature to vote in favor of Bill A6730, which is currently before the legislature. This legislation is designed to close those loopholes and strengthen protections for victims and their loved ones. The bill is not about restricting books, documentaries, journalism, or public discussion. It's about ensuring that criminals and those connected to them cannot exploit tragedy for gain while families are left carrying a lifelong weight of loss. This is your opportunity to stand with victims, families, and support the meaningful advancement of Bill A6730. So future families do not have to endure the same pain and indignity that we have and countless victims' families before us have suffered. Let us not forget Asian Doe. May he be identified soon, and may justice be brought for him and his family. And let us also not forget Shannon Gilbert, whose family still seeks justice for her death. Love is the most powerful force in the world. We will continue living our best lives while remembering and celebrating Megan, Maureen, Melissa, Amberlyn, Jessica, Valerie, Sandra, and Karen with love. Like the justice system, I too am banishing the prisoner from occupying any more space in my mind as this day comes to a close. Be gone, cowardly demon.
My name is Liliana Waterman, and I am the daughter of Megan Waterman. My mother went missing when I was just 3 years old. Her body was not found until I was 4. She was taken from me during the most important years of my life. A little girl needs her mom. I never got the chance to know what it was like to be comforted by her after a bad day, to hear her advice, or to grow up with her guidance and love. I was not fully aware of the horrific details of what had happened until I was around 9 years old. How do you tell a child that her mom was brutally murdered? I remember sitting home in 4th grade, scrolling online when I came across an article about her. That was the moment I truly understood what had happened. I remember asking my grandparents what the word prostitute, pimp meant. In an instant, my world was shattered. My heart broke all over again. Questions flooded my mind. Was she in pain? Was she scared? Was she thinking of me? What were her last words? I knew she was trying to build a better life for me. Was this somehow my fault? No child should ever have to carry anything like that, any of those questions. After my mother's death, my grandparents and my aunt became my guardians. In many ways, this was not new to me because I had lived with them for most of my life. My grandmother had raised 6 of her own kids. She then helped to raise my mother and my uncle, and then started over again to raise me. She gave me stability, love, and a home when my world had been turned upside down. In 2018, we had lived in for nearly 10 years and were forced to move to a new state. Then in 2019, both of my grandparents passed away, just 4 months apart. By the age of 12, I had lost my mom, my nana, my papa who would raise me, and I had never known my dad. A few months later, my aunt moved me to yet another state. Within 3 years, I had lived in 3 different states, constantly trying to find a place where I felt like I belonged. I often found myself wondering if my mother had never been murdered, would any of this have happened to me? Maybe we would have stayed in our home state. Maybe I would have grown up with more stability. Maybe I would have had the chance to come home to my mom every day. Maybe she would have given me siblings. Maybe I would have known what it felt like to have a parent cheer me on through life's milestones. Those are questions I will never have answered because of the choices made by the man who took her life. One of the hardest parts of this case has been living it publicly. For years, my mother's murder has been discussed in articles, television specials, podcasts, and across social media. There are weeks when I cannot bring myself to open any social apps because I'm constantly confronted with reminders of the worst thing that's ever happened to me. I am grateful that people want to say her name and seek justice for her, but there is a difference between remembering who she was and profiting off of the tragedy that she's been through. Watching companies, networks, content makers, and all that make money from the pain my family has been through is very difficult. Major news companies show up at my doorstep, calling my work to get anything out of me and other people who work there, answering phones, texting me on any social site they can to make a quick buck off of my story absolutely disgusts me. While others build careers and profit from this story, my family has spent years carrying emotional, financial, and personal consequences of it. I have spent 16 mother days without my mom. I have thousands of days without her.
I am now the same age my mom was when she was first pregnant with me, and I realized just how young she really was. I feel as though I have barely begun to understand life, yet she was denied the chance to live hers. She had hopes, dreams, and plans for the future. Nobody grows up dreaming of the circumstances she found herself in. She was a human being. She was someone's daughter, someone's friend. Most importantly, she was my mother. Every milestone in my life has been marked by her absence. She wasn't there for my first day of school, graduations, achievements, heartbreaks, or the moments that shaped me into the person I am today. Every accomplishment comes with a reminder that I cannot call her and tell her anything about it. Rex Heuermann did not just take my mother's life, he stole an entire lifetime of memories that me and her never got to make. He took away birthdays, holidays, conversations, hugs, advice, and every future moment a mother and daughter should have shared. The damage he caused extends far beyond the day he made this crime. His actions changed the course of my life forever. They devastated my family, but they also shattered the lives of his own family, who now must live with the knowledge that they shared a home with a serial killer. He is calculated, manipulative, remorseless, and a heartless man. The pain he caused cannot be measured, and the lives he destroyed cannot be restored. He deserves to spend the rest of his life behind bars. For so many years, this case has been a weight I carried every single day. A burden of unanswered questions, grief, and a sense that justice has not been served. Constantly having to look over my shoulder, making sure nobody was following me or trying to see where I was headed to. Today's proceedings do not erase what happened, and they do not bring her back. Nothing ever will. But today brings accountability. Today brings a measure of justice that has been decades in the making. While my mother was robbed of her future, I stand here to make sure her voice is heard. I will continue to live for her and spread the light that Rex Heuermann tried to take from her. My mother mattered. She was loved. She was more than a headline, more than a victim, more than a case number, and she deserves so much better.
Your Honor, moving on to the victim, Amber Lynn Costello. First, Amber's friend, Mr. Bjorn Brodsky, was to deliver an impact statement that was delivered to Mr. Brown to the court earlier this week. And secondly, I'm going to read the statement of the sister of Amber Lynn Costello, Kim Overstreet, for the court. Thank you, Honorable Judge Timothy P. Mazzei, and this honorable court for allowing me, Kim, sister of Amber Lynn Costello, this opportunity. I offer much sincere gratitude to the dedicated task force of this case for never giving up the fight on the war for justice for my sister, Amber Costello, and other treasured women who lost their lives at the hands of a deviant man named Rex Heuermann. Humbly, through the strength of Jesus Christ, on behalf of my beloved sister, Amber Costello, I do not give a victim impact statement, but a testimony of how Amber Costello's life and death was victorious, bringing glory to God, because a raging, murdering sex addict now faces justice in this court. May this honorable court use the power established by God Almighty to revenge Amber Costello and the other treasured women who lost their lives at the hands of Rex Heuermann. Before Amber Costello's death, she tricked Rex Heuermann in more ways than one. If it were not for my sister's street smarts, Task Force United to catch the serial killer would still be on the hunt. Amber's quick thinking lit the match and ignited fits of rage in the egotistical, evil narcissist, Rex Heuermann. The immoral man sitting before you today could not handle being outwitted by Amber Costello. My sister's actions led this hidden murderer to show out in fits of rage. His unbridled anger for having been fooled by Amber caused Rex Heuermann to not only hunt Amber, but also hunt my daughter and me. Although my daughter, myself, and countless others escaped Rex Heuermann's cold, calculated clutches, my sister, Amber Lynn Costello, paid the ultimate price. However, her sacrifice and soul brings victory to this courtroom because she has strength in Jesus Christ. Although the exact details of what happened to our treasured Amber after she said her last goodbye to friends as she climbed inside Rex Heuermann's avalanche, I know her blind faith in Jesus Christ helped her endure the mental torment and the physical agony this monster sitting before you today inflicted upon her flesh, before Amber Costello eventually succumbed to death, taking her final labored breaths with Rex Heuermann's hands wrapped around her neck. Although my sister was a sinner, she was forgiven, and Amber was justified through Jesus that allowed Amber's spirit to continue to wage war against Rex Heuermann. Since 2011, the task force on this case was directed to the right path to catch this cold-blooded evil man because of my sister's actions. Amber Costello's spirit fights from the marsh grave where Rex Heuermann threw her body. May the judgment passed down on Rex Heuermann count each life lost at his hands as priceless. May this honorable court rectify the fact that the wife of Rex Heuermann has benefited over $1 million because of a relationship to these tragic murders. May the victims, their families, and our society see that God Almighty ordained power and the punishment handed down for Amber Costello's killer, Rex Heuermann. Your Honor, before Mr. Lee gives the final statement on behalf of Sandra Costilla's family, I do wish the court to know that the two sons of Miss Karen Vergata, Paul and Eric Doherty, are here in front of the court today in support of themselves, of course, and all the other victims' families that are here. Thank you.
Certainly.
This is the victim impact statement of Ruth Catherine Ramos. To the Honorable Judge Timothy P. Mazzei, my name is Ruth Ramos, and I am the sister of Sandra Costilla. We thank Your Honor for allowing us, alongside the other grieving families, to address the court today regarding the profound impact the loss of mothers, daughters, and sisters has had on our lives. Receiving the news about my sister and the manner in which she was discovered is a level of devastation from which we will never fully recover. Today is a deeply meaningful and long-awaited day, not only for Sandra's family, but for the other victims' families. Amber, Valerie, Karen, Jessica, Maureen, Melissa, and Megan. It was always my hope that the person responsible for destroying our family and the families of so many would someday be held fully accountable, and that day is here. While justice cannot bring Amber, Valerie, Karen, Jessica, Maureen, Melissa, Megan, and Sandra back, it ensures they are no longer forgotten and brings our families peace, knowing that the person responsible for our irreversible pain can never harm anyone else. We had feared this day would never happen. However, the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office proved us wrong. This day would never have been possible without the tireless dedication of the task force with the District Attorney's Office, and I would like to specifically comment on District Attorney Raymond Tierney for his relentless pursuit of justice and leadership. The persistence and diligence shown by this team are truly commendable. We thought this was a lost case, but they proved otherwise. We are incredibly grateful to everyone who worked on this investigation, paid meticulous attention to detail, and demonstrated such deep care for the families experiencing such a horrible tragedy and loss. We cannot say enough thanks to all the participants. Sandra was a beautiful, intelligent young woman with endless potential. Her life changed completely when she had her son, Zach. He was the center of her world, and Sandra cherished every moment of being a mother. While our lives were permanently altered that day, the greatest loss was one experienced by Zach. Losing his mother at such a young age is an unimaginable hardship that has robbed him of her guidance and her love, and one that no child should ever have to endure. Zach grew up never knowing her, and the loss has had an irreversible impact on his life and has caused significant emotional distress throughout his life. As this long journey to find justice for Sandra, Amber, Valerie, Karen, Jessica, Maureen, Melissa, and Megan comes to a close, my heart is with all the families, and it is my deepest hope that their loved ones will find peace and will honor their lives by living their best lives. And may the children left behind carry on a beautiful legacy of their mothers. Respectfully submitted, Ruth Ramos. Your Honor, that concludes the victim impact portion of the proceedings. At this time, with the court's permission, I will turn it over to the District Attorney.
Mr. Tierney.
Thank you, Your Honor. I knew the victim impact portion of the sentencing would be impactful, but that was spectacularly impactful. And I want to thank the victims not only for their words in the courtroom, but I also want to thank them for their support of us, the District Attorney's Office, the task force in this case, and their loved ones, right from the very beginning. They're truly extraordinary people. I want to thank the court as well, Your Honor, for the many courtesies that you extend both to myself and Mr. Brown and his team So thank you very much for that, Your Honor, and thank you to your staff and the court officers as well. With regard to the sentence, Your Honor, the people respectfully request that the court impose the bargain for sentence of this case, which is 3 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole on the 3 murder and the first-degree convictions pertaining to counts 1 through 3 of the indictment regarding Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello, followed by 4 consecutive sentences of 25 years, of between 25 years and life imprisonment to run consecutive to each other and consecutive to counts 1 and 3 pertaining to the murder and second-degree convictions regarding, in count 7, Maureen Brainard-Barnes, in count 8, Jessica Taylor, in count 9, Valerie Mack, and in count 10, Sandra Costilla. I should note, Your Honor, that although the defendant didn't plead guilty, he did take responsibility for the murder of Karen Vergata. Your Honor, this request is made and based on, of course, the bargain for disposition in this case, facts and circumstances of this case, the effect that this defendant's crimes have had on the victims and their families, which we've just heard about, and the defendant's character and background. All of those considerations, Your Honor, demand the maximum sentence allowed by law. First and foremost, I want to talk about this defendant's crime and the effect that it's had on the victim's family. Obviously, that's self-evident, Your Honor. 8 young women were needlessly and brutally murdered at the hands of this defendant. And thanks to the victims' families, the court has learned a little bit about their ordeal, the ordeal that each of these families have gone through as a result of this defendant's actions. It couldn't have been easy for those people and those family members to stand up in court. This isn't what they do, Your Honor, but they did it anyway because they love their family members. They got up, they told their stories, and I want to thank them for that because they said it in a way that only they could, and they said it way better than I could, and that I will. So I'm not going to belabor the point. I'm going to let their words speak for themselves. But suffice to say, Your Honor, that the effect that this case has had on them is overwhelming. Not only on the victims who lost their lives, but also on the victims' mothers, siblings, children, friends, significant others, aunts, cousins, and again, we heard a little bit about that. That pain, Your Honor, is ever present, it's intergenerational, and it's never going to end for any of those family members. But we also saw, notwithstanding that, Your Honor, they were also able to rise above it and overcome it. And again, they are the inspiration to our team, and they are what this case should be about. Their strength and their resilience. Again, Your Honor, they said it best. I'm not going to belabor the point. But suffice to say that the defendant has earned a maximum sentence in this case based solely upon the effect that he has had on the victims and the victims' families. But of course, Your Honor, that's not all. The particular facts and circumstances of this case and the defendant's character or lack thereof cry out for the maximum sentence as well. This is a defendant who meticulously planned the murder of 8 young women. He obsessed over every detail as a means to both prepare for the next murder and also to relive the twisted gratification and sick pleasure he derived from taking the lives of 8 young women. There is nothing the defendant can say or do in this courtroom that could mitigate what he has taken from those women and their families. Any remorse shown is insufficient and far too little. It is all too little and too late. As the court is aware, the defendant has permitted certain information to trickle out through statements made to his ex-wife and his therapist, but those are nothing more than pathetic attempts by this defendant to continue to manipulate his family and control that family, control both his family and the message of this case. The true message of this case was delivered by those victims today, Your Honor. That's what this case is about. And I submit that nothing that this defendant has to say past his arrest, which occurred in July of 2023, anything he says beyond that is meaningless and self-serving. It's meant merely to deflect from his own guilty actions. I have no doubt that this defendant is very sorry, Your Honor. He is sorry. He is sorry he got caught. What is important, Your Honor, is the statements made by this defendant prior to his arrest, and the actions taken by his defendant prior to that arrest as well, because those things reveal what this defendant is truly about. Who this defendant truly is seen in that planning document that was recovered from one of the defendant's electronic devices that was recovered by the task force during the execution of the first search warrant. In that document, the defendant coldly plans out the murder of multiple women as though he was addressing a math problem or filling out a shopping list. Absent from that document is any regard or concern for the humanity of those women and the lives he took. It is clear that these victims meant nothing to that defendant. He addresses issues and problems arising out of mass murder only in the context of how those issues affect him. He gives himself reminders regarding his own comfort, and he has no regard for the pain he inflicted upon those victims. And just real briefly, Your Honor, from that, you see when he talks about what he needs to dispose of, he talks of props, toys, wood items that he made himself with members of his own family, that he kept in his house and he used during the execution of his murders, only to destroy them. He talks about how sound travels, i.e. a bird outside. What he's saying is, if I can hear a bird outside, that means people outside can hear what I'm doing inside my house. So I need to control the amount of air and out of the victims so you can control the noise made. Again, to avoid detection, to avoid responsibility. He says he reminds himself to get sleep before the hunt because if he's too tired, it creates problems. Again, he's treating this as though it was sport, the taking of lives as though it were sport. He talks about hitting too harder. He talks about hitting harder and consider a hit to the face to take down the victims the next time. He's already thinking about the next time. In another part of the document, he says, small is good. This is a hulking individual who is going after petite women. He is a coward. He's talking about if he has more sleep, he's able to control the noise, he will have more playtime. Again, this is sport to this defendant. The taking of life is sport. Again, Your Honor, no concern for the victims and the pain and terror he inflicted upon them whatsoever. He lures these victims to his home, murders them, and disposes of them in the same house he lives with his wife and 2 children. The same house his ex-wife still lives in. And then he joins that same family on a nice vacation that he only planned so he so that he could be alone with those victims in the first place. That, Your Honor, is who this defendant is. This defendant is also someone who continually purchased burner phones and created fictitious email addresses to use with those phones. He thought those email addresses and burner phones could not be traced back to him. He was wrong, Your Honor. Throughout the investigation, we saw that this defendant continued to use those burner phones up until the time he was arrested. In fact, on the day of his arrest, we recovered 2 such burner phones from his possession. We were able to trace those burner phones as far back as 2007. So at least as far back as between 2007 and 2023, he was using these burner phones. And what did he use those burner phones for? To patronize sex workers and commit murder. He had separate phones in which he had contacted hundreds of sex workers. Once someone was marked for death, the defendant also had 4 separate burner phones he used exclusively to lure and kill the Gilgo 4, Maureen, Brainard-Barnes, Melissa Barthelemy, Amber Costello, and Megan Waterman. We were able to trace the defendant's patronization of sex workers all the way back to 1993, from 1993 to the day of his arrest. That, Your Honor, is who this defendant is. What else did the defendant use the burner phones for? Fictitious email accounts used to make Google searches and access websites. The defendant thought these accounts couldn't be traced. The defendant was wrong. The defendant searched thousands of sex worker sites. He visited countless pornographic websites featuring the torture and dismemberment of women. He excessively searched websites featuring the status of the Gilgo Beach investigation, hoping to gain insight into our investigation. He searched for photos of the victims and their family members. He tried to learn where the family members were living. He thought these actions couldn't be traced. They could be. He thought he was being smart. He wasn't being smart at all. That, Your Honor, is who this defendant is. The defendant would like us to believe that these murders just happened. They didn't, Your Honor. These murders were meticulously planned out by a psychopath who thought nothing of the victims and the consequences of his actions. But almost just as bad, Your Honor, he also never thought about the effect and consequences that his actions would have on those he claims to care about most of all, his wife and 2 children. Moreover, rather than express remorse or contrition for his heinous actions, he has sought to enrich himself for this conduct through his own family, who he continues to manipulate and control behind bars. If there is one thing that this case shows, it's that this defendant cares only about himself and his sick interests. He is incapable of caring about he is not capable of caring about anything else, and that includes his own family. I've been primarily talking about the defendant's actions. Now I'm going to talk about his words, again, prior to his arrest. We've already heard about this. In July and August of 2009, a few weeks after this defendant murdered Melissa Barthelemy, he contacted Melissa's 15-year-old sister, Melissa's then 15-year-old sister, Amanda, who we just heard from. And he used the same cell phone that he stole from Melissa after he murdered her. So he stole Melissa's life, and then he stole her cell phone and used it to call her 15-year-old sister. Murdering, torturing, and tormenting Melissa Barthelemy wasn't enough for this defendant. He also wanted to torture and torment a 15-year-old child. And what this defendant said to that 15-year-old child after he murdered her beloved sister is detailed in the pre-sentence investigation, and Amanda talked about it. I'm not going to get into the details of that, but suffice to say, Your Honor, any person who would say those things to a grieving 15-year-old child desperately trying to find her missing sister that person is not good, as this defendant self-described himself to probation personnel in the pre-sentence investigation report. Quite the opposite, actually. This defendant is a monster, incapable of remorse, redemption, or rehabilitation. But there's one portion of that conversation that I am going to talk about that I want to highlight, and that's the end of the portion of the series of conversations with Amanda, when Amanda asked this defendant if she was ever going to see her sister again. And the defendant told her, and I'm paraphrasing, "I can't tell you whether you're going to see your sister again, but I am going to wait, and then maybe I'll come tell you myself." Again, trying to torture that 15-year-old girl. And, Your Honor, is all you really need to know about this defendant and who he is. He's smug, confident, not nearly as smart as he thinks he is. He delights in terrorizing others. He's always obsessed with himself and his own desires, and he cares nothing about the consequences of his own actions or the effect those consequences have on other people, including his own family members. But getting back to that statement, Your Honor, there's irony in that statement, because on that day that statement was made, it marked the time that Rex Heuermann went from being the hunter to becoming the hunted. The defendant never got the opportunity to come and look for Amanda and the other victims' family members like he tried to do in his internet searches. In fact, it was Amanda and the other families and their loved ones who stayed strong, stuck together, and came looking for the defendant. And on July 13, 2023, when the task force came knocking on the defendant's door, it was his turn to be tormented and terrified. And he's tormented and terrified because what he did and because who he is. And it was his own arrogance, overconfidence, and missteps that led the force directly to his door. So now, Your Honor, for the first time, this defendant stands before this court as the person he really is, a remorseless and sadistic serial killer who only cares about himself. Accordingly, Your Honor, we ask that the court deliver the only sentence that the defendant deserves, the only just sentence in this case based on the facts and circumstances, which is the maximum sentence allowed under New York State law. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Tierney. How you doing? All right. Mr. Brown, you wish to be heard?
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Mr. Tierney. I just want to, can I briefly address the family?
Of course.
Thank you. Folks, I've never spoken to you over the last 3 years. I am sorry for your loss. As Mr. Tierney indicated, you folks are the reason why this case has come to this point. Your dedication, devotion, and insistence on making sure that this investigation came to this point is why we're here today. I've never met your sister, your daughter, your mother, your cousin, your friend, and I've been researching and studying this case day in, day out for the last 3 years. So even though I've never met them, I honestly feel like I know them. I've obviously listened to what you had to say today. They were beautiful young ladies. Their memories will last forever. And I do sincerely apologize for the loss. In regards to the court judge, I just want to indicate we appreciate the defense team, your experience and knowledge in leading this case and handling this case. This obviously was a very difficult case for both sides. We appreciate that. In regards to the district attorney, I just want to point out, Judge, from the beginning of this case, they have exhibited true professionalism, and they've exhibited what attorneys should be. I will say the same about my defense team. I have nothing further. Thank you.
Mr. Heuermann, is there anything you wish to say before I pronounce sentence? Stand up.
There are no words I can say. I am responsible for what was said in this room today. The words I would say have no meaning, and I'm going to leave it there at this time.
Speak up.
Mr. Heuermann, as Mr. Tierney said, I know that you're sorry that you got caught. I assume that you're sorry for what you've done to your wife and children. Are you a little bit sorry for what you did to these poor innocent women? 8 women that you strangled to death? At least 8 that we know of? Are you at least a little bit sorry for that? Yes? You know what? You've been described as a very big man, but you're a disgusting and despicable small man, if you're a man at all. And you're a coward. As a result of your plea of guilty to murder in the first degree and count 1 of indictment 73544 of 2024, to sentence the court that you serve the rest of your life without the possibility of parole. With respect to count 2, murder in the first degree, to sentence the court that you serve the rest of your life without the possibility of parole. With respect to count 3, guilty to murder in the first degree, it's a sentence to the court that you serve the rest of your life without the possibility of parole. Those 3 sentences to run consecutive with each other. With respect to count 7, murder in the second degree, it's a sentence to the court that you serve an indeterminate term of imprisonment with a minimum of 25 years and a maximum of your life. With respect to count 8, murder in the second degree, it's a sentence to the court that you serve an indeterminate term of imprisonment with a minimum of 25 years and a maximum of your life. With respect to count 9, murder in the second degree, it's a sentence to the court that you serve an indeterminate term of imprisonment with a minimum of 25 years and a maximum of your life. And finally, with respect to count 10, murder in the second degree, it's the sentence to the court that you serve an indeterminate term of imprisonment with a minimum of 25 years and a maximum of your life. All of those sentences to run consecutive with each other. Mr. Tierney, with respect to counts 4, 5, and 6, move to dismiss, Your Honor, in satisfaction of that sentence. That application is granted. Other agencies to collect. Anything else, gentlemen? Nothing from the people. Mr. Brown?
Nothing further.
All right, get him out of here.
Serving on defense or directing the surrender of firearms, rifles, and shotguns. That order will go back with you at the jail.
At least we know where you are.
After years of unanswered questions, the Gilgo Beach murder case has reached its final chapter. Rex Heuermann was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole after admitting responsibility for 8 murders committed over a span of nearly 2 decades. The sentence ensures that he will spend the rest of his life behind bars. The sentencing hearing was marked by powerful victim impact statements from family members who described years of grief, uncertainty, and unimaginable loss. Many confronted Heuermann directly, demanding accountability for the pain he inflicted on their loved ones and the lasting trauma left behind. Judge Timothy Mazzei condemned Heuermann's actions, describing him as a coward and emphasizing the devastating impact of his crimes. While no sentence can undo the suffering endured by the victims and their families, the conclusion of this case brings a measure of justice after more than a decade of investigation. The Gilgo Beach murders will remain one of the most infamous serial killer cases in American history, a reminder of the victims whose lives were stolen and of the relentless efforts that finally brought their killer to justice.